I think today's ink drawing is maybe, at least composition-wise, aesthetically-wise, the most beautiful one so far. If you look at it, it's got so many beautiful elements in it. It's split very much like the yin and yang sign, but in a horizontal way. You've got the bottom half of the picture in water and the top half of the picture in air, kind of a wind, cloud, mist, as it were, kind of representing your formlessness in the sky, and in the water your form, but a form, of course, that can take any shape. So you've got the whole creation represented there, the form and the formless, and sort of the foreground, separate from the two halves of the background, sort of superimposed on it. You have the specificity, the particulars. Interestingly enough, this picture is called Reaching the Source, and there's no body in it, meaning there's no ego in this. You are everything. Everything is you. You've got the three stages of life represented right there in front, with starting at the ground, of course, death, with the dead tree lying there, and coming up into the stem of the tree, the living tree, and then the blossoms coming off. That would be your birth, your beginning, your spring. The poem highlights it. The poem today says, "Too many steps have been taken, returning to the root and the source. Better to have been blind and deaf from the beginning, dwelling in one's true abode, unconcerned with that without. The river flows tranquilly on, and the flowers are red." Too many steps have been taken. Why? Because none of them were necessary. Where is the source of you but within you? And yet we wander around the world, some of us, certainly my path took me around the world, trying to find meaning, trying to find truth, trying to find out what the purpose and meaning of life is, that are already ours if we knew who we were in the scenario. If we would take the body, the mind out of the scenario and see things in this beautiful, tranquil, perfect arrangement. Better to have been born blind and deaf from the beginning. Now, a lot of people won't like to hear that. What it's really talking about there is that better to have not gotten caught up in the senses of the body and mind that caused us so much confusion about what was meaningful, about who we are and what we are. Taking our definition of self based on the needs and restrictions and limitations of a body that was always hungry, always aging, being the source of all of our enjoyment and all of our attention, and yet temporary, housing something that in of its own nature is infinite and immortal. The body could never have been enough for us. It could never have provided enough. Everything was too short, always too short. Like Nachiketa says in the Katha Upanishad, even a long life is too short on the last day. Its moment will pass, and we as the infinite will never be able to find satisfaction or comfort in that. Better to have never depended on it at all. Why? Because there is something better here, dwelling in one's true abode, unconcerned with that without. It's coming to this understanding that anything that we think is without us or on the outside of us is illusory. There is no outside of us. I've said many times in this series, we don't live in a world, we live in a mind. And we can only know this mind. We assume that our senses are tantalized from this imaginary outside. But Sri Nisargadatta says, that which you put on the outside of yourself is only that which you do not fully understand. Very interesting idea, but it certainly is worthy of a lot of contemplation. I've had a lot of fun with that one, with thinking about, does the outside world exist? Is it real? And finding out in the end you have no proof one way or the other. It's very odd. It's very much like proving God. You cannot. You can go one way or the other, but neither can be proved, as it were. So this world is very similar to that. Everything that you experience is already in the mind when you're experiencing it. Your mind sources it from ears and sources it from eyes, and it has created symbols to represent all of the sensory information that it receives by cross-referencing. And that's what the world is. It's a cross-referencing of information coming into the mind. But we cannot establish where that information comes from. We have created a symbol of an ear, but that symbol of an ear is within the mind as well. So does that ear actually connect to something external from us? There's no way to know, no way to say. It's one of those things. So contemplate, all that you need is within you, because everything is within you. The river flows tranquilly. That's the realization, that self is tranquil. It's a river flowing infinitely, and the flowers are red. I love that. It's a nonsensical statement. It doesn't matter at all, but you notice it. But it has no meaning to you as far as a requirement or as far as a piece of pleasure or whatnot. It's just a statement of isness. And that's what the world becomes. The flowers are still there. The trees are still there. The water is still there. It's all beautiful, and it's all completely irrelevant to you. So you have no need in it. That doesn't mean you can't see the beauty of it. You are, in fact, the beauty of it. You yourself. There is no experiencer here. You know that which is self. That alone resides. And the body unnecessary, which is why, again, it's been removed from the frame here today. Returning to the source, coming into your own fullness. It's a place that allows you to serve without need of being served. It's a place that allows you to be a friend without needing a friend. It's a place where you can love without needing to be loved. So that merchant quality of life is completely erased. You have an infinity to give from, and you give infinitely because it is your nature. You have come to know the joy of giving. You've come to know the fullness of the heart. You've been free from having to beg for pleasure from the body and from the mind and from the imagined world. You've been free from having to beg for your contentment. Now you have found it in your own pocket, eternal source of all of it. Everything is yours. You are everything. There is no other. Fear, finally, has gone.